2.
Hi everyone, my name is Loren. I am one of the GPU mining instructors here at Crypto World. I have been GPU mining for about a year and a half. I remember you. Yeah, good to see you again. I would say, my expertise is mainly in GPU mining, but I do some ASIC mining as well. Earlier this year, I went into a partnership with my mom. We kind of decked out one of her sheds on her property, and we've got some ASIC miners in there now. I built a GPU mining rig for her as well, so she's getting into it. We put power in it. We put fans, exhaust fans in there. We had to beam like 5G internet to it because we lived way out in the country, and it would have been insanely expensive to run internet out there. But it's been a really great learning experience overall. I really enjoy crypto mining, participating in the space. Some reasons you might want to get into mining would be, to earn some passive income, obviously, but also by mining, you are actively participating in whatever blockchain you choose to mine on. So, you really are providing work to further the blockchain and the technology. And it gives you a good idea of the potential of cryptocurrency and how it works. And, even if you just wanted to do it as a hobby, I think there's some value there as well. So kind of one of the first things really you would want to consider with GPU mining is, where do you want to start? Do you want to build one yourself from scratch with all the components? And so that's one thing we'll cover today is kind of the different components you would need in the process, or, maybe you might want to purchase like a pre-built rig like one of these. And regardless of which option you choose, you will have to learn a little bit about mining software. These machines don't just run by themselves. You do have to load some type of software to them, whether that be on a flash drive or on a dedicated hard drive to connect to it. When I first started, I started mining in Windows, the Windows operating system, just to get a very, very basic idea of how everything works. However, the kind of more advanced and most efficient way would be to use a mining specific operating system. And what I mean by that is the platform is really made to only mine cryptocurrency. And so with that, you're going to have more flexibility with your machines. You're going to be able to control them. You're going to be able to make them more efficient. And by more efficient, I mean you're going to be able to make them draw less power and be able to provide more work. Because at the end of the day, the more work you are providing and pushing out to these machines, the more you're going to earn in the cryptocurrency, which equates to more dollars down the road.
You said that was with a dedicated machine as opposed to just any other laptop.
Well, so you actually can mine on a laptop depending on the type of graphics card that it has. For instance, I have a gaming laptop that has an NVIDIA graphics card in it, and I run mining software on it. It just sits there and mines when I'm not using it. Actually, the laptop has paid itself off. Granted, I started mining on it kind of in the rise of the last bear market. So, it took about 13 or 14 months for that laptop to pay itself off, but it did, which I think is pretty amazing. It's pretty cool. So, also maybe you just have a computer at home, and if you know how to, install a graphics card, like one of these is a graphics card, you might hear me call it like a GPU too, and I apologize for all of you that know this already. Yes. Anyways, you can also just start that way on like a personal computer at home, just running some software and kind of getting used to how the cards function. And so there's a term you'll hear me say, it's called overclocking. Overclocking and undervolting are tools that you would utilize within a software to kind of fine tune the card and just get the maximum performance out of it. So, starting on a platform like Windows, I think for me was a little bit easier just to wrap my head around how does this work, what type of commands am I using, and how does it translate into, the graphics card doing different things. And then, from there, there are kind of like more advanced operating systems that just allow you to dig even deeper into the realm of.
What advantage would a laptop? I forget the name of his company that Bitcoin Ben was pushing at the Tuesday morning meeting a couple weeks ago.
So
I guess it was last week.
I'm not super familiar with the components that are inside of his laptop.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to mine on that. The concept of that laptop is that it's secure, so he turned off all the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
He turned everything off.
It's more security based. Yeah.
Card, so you wouldn't necessarily mine with
Okay.
that, because there's not a graphics card, or if there is, it's just a very low end or stock graphics card.
Okay.
That's needed for that.
Yeah.
So that's for buying, holding, and selling.
Yeah, it's like having all your wallets on something that's secure, that's very difficult to hack.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So typically
Something different.
Yeah, typically a laptop that would be capable of mining would be like a gaming laptop or a content creation. The more high end the graphics card, typically the more it can mine.
And would you describe like this unit here as being fairly a more rudimentary miner? No.
Okay. This is a rig, right?
Yeah.
This is a full rig. So this is kind of like.
Would it be possible to go overboard with the laptop or other computer that would drive that?
So, right now, with the market conditions and where everything's at, I don't think it would make sense for you to go out and buy a really high-end laptop just to mine on, because you're paying for a lot of other components that you don't need. Whereas, here, with something like this, you are literally only paying for the components you need to make the machine mine. Now, like I said, at the top, when the price, like when we were at all-time highs, it might have made sense to do that. Really, it's kind of like up to you to kind of like calculate profitability of a machine, and calculate when your return would be on your investment.
So a unit like this then does it need to be paired with something a more traditional computer with an interface and screen and everything else?
All it needs is a hard drive or a flash drive.
Okay.
Yeah, an operating system.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have internet. Sorry. Yeah, I definitely don't want to skip over that. They will not work without it. And on top of that, you want them to be hardwired. You might be able to get away with some wireless, but in the long run, it's going to lower the amount of your revenue.
Yeah.
You want to hardwire it for sure.
Well, Loren, you wouldn't.
Yep.
Would it be a fair statement that the only reason you're mining with your gaming laptop that you mentioned is because you bought it to game with, and then just when you weren't using it, you were going to utilize it to mine? You don't usually. Money will always be better spent building a rig for mining more efficiently than any laptop.
Absolutely. So when I bought that laptop, actually it was like when the GPU shortage was going on. You couldn't buy GPUs anywhere. That's when the prices were like sky high. So I bought it to do other things than to mine on, but at the end of the day, it did end up paying itself off just from crypto mining. But no, that would not be the most efficient use of your funds. Definitely not.
Is the mining software, or is it fairly intuitive to is it command driven? Is it?
So it can't.
It is now.
Somewhat.
There is a bit of a learning curve with it. So the one I use is Linux based. However, the commands are pretty intuitive, and like there is just like as soon as you boot up the operating system, if you have a module plugged to it, it says like these are the commands. Or you type like /help or like help -- or you know what I mean, something like that. So again, I actually have never used this mining software, but it's going to be a very similar process.
We're going to learn on the fly.
Yeah. Do you think we should start there, or do you think maybe we should just like really go component by component?
You can go component by component. That's fine.
I have not. We should at least. Did you download it already? Your internet connection fast here?
Yeah, it's pretty fast.
Okay.
You need to download.
Because sometimes they're like a gigabyte or more.
you need to download the OS, and you also need
Yes.
to have
Do you have a flashing utility?
Alina, yeah.
Yeah, believe it.
Belina, you got Belina on there? Yeah, sure.
Do you maybe want to show me where to download?
Download and install is right there on your
okay,
laptop.
there it is.
Yeah.
So this is an example of where you would go to download a mining specific operating system. All you're doing is you're downloading a file that's called an image.img file. You will need another specific set of software to basically, it's called burn, or think of it as just you're installing the installation file of the software onto a medium, whether that be a flash drive or a hard drive, like a solid state drive. You could use just a full-on big old SATA hard drive if you wanted, but I wouldn't recommend that because they're slow, they can break, there's spinning components that can fail. It's kind of just one other thing you have to worry about. Typically, I use solid-state drives, like the 2.5-inch ones. They're really, really thin. They just run off a standard SATA connection, and that's going to plug right into like the motherboard of the computer here. So I'm going to go ahead and start the download on this, and then I'm going to go through the components for you here and try to kind of explain what they are, what they do, and kind of how they integrate into the mining rig.
You want to save that to the desktop,
Okay.
just for ease of finding it later.
Thank you, Jonas. Oh, that one is not too bad, and you have faster than it, thankfully. So what you see here is a finished product. And again, for those of you that already know, I apologize. This might be kind of just reiterating, all the stuff you know about already. But for those of you that don't, each specific, I'll call them cards. We call them cards because they're kind of thin and card shaped, I guess. These are going to be the individual kind of little machines that are able to, so what they do is they use their compute power to solve complex math equations. And so the reason that you would want to do that is kind of the purpose of blockchain technology is, imagine you have a block, and on this block, every transaction that has ever happened on the network or blockchain is stored within this one block, right? So to make another block, you use machines to solve complex equations to create that next block. And that next block holds all of the transactions, kind of like a ledger, holds all the transactions previously, plus now all of the new transactions that just happened on the network. So if you were trying to send someone a Bitcoin or a fraction of a Bitcoin, your transaction would kind of just be like pending until the next block was created, and then your transaction would now be stored on that block forever on the blockchain, and it's immutable. And so that is kind of just the very basic idea of proof of work. And we call that proof of work because these machines are actually doing work. I mean, they're spinning away, they're getting hot, they're humming, they're working really hard to solve these strings of equations to create the next block of this immutable ledger on the blockchain. So to do that, basically, all you have to do is make sure you're feeding them enough power. So, and this is going to be, like, if you understand kind of how a computer is built, it's pretty easy to understand how one of these is built, because at its core, it really is just a computer with multiple graphics cards in it. Typically in a computer, you would just have one of these, and maybe not even, maybe it would just be like a CPU. So on the outside, the metal here is really not functional. It's just the frame to hold all the components together. There's many different frames, shapes, and sizes. And so typically you'll see one or two of these big black boxes, and these are what are called power supplies. They're also called PSUs for short. And those are going to be just that. What provides the power to all of these machines. And one of the things you want to make sure that you have a big enough power supply that's going to provide enough power to run all of these machines. And so with that, you have your power supply. You also have what's called the motherboard here. I don't know if you can see. It's very thin. It's kind of just a big thin square. Think of this as the junction where everything connects to. This is what connects everything to run the rig. It connects all the dots per se. And so on your motherboard, once you have a power supply, the motherboard needs a couple things to run. It needs a CPU, central processing unit. Doesn't have to be a fast CPU. Typically, if you're looking to just be really, really efficient with money, you would want to go for like a pretty low-end CPU to save yourself some money. However, you can mine on CPUs as well, and it actually is profitable. I'm not going to really get into that today, but if you were to have a higher-end CPU, you can utilize that to mine and make money as well. So something to keep in mind, but I would probably recommend you go with just like an i3 or a Pentium processor, something pretty much just the cheapest one you can find that's going to
Do you have any idea what's on these units here?
Oh, on these pre-built ones, I've got a component list outside.
I can tell once we get it running, I can look in
Well,
there.
let's say on that some of us with everything. is.
Typically it'll show, it'll
So
show.
those specific mining motherboards with, like, obviously they probably have a whole lot more graphic ports than a normal motherboard,
That's
right?
typically what they do. Yeah.
Okay, so
Typically they have a lot of ports or lanes. So
Can you ever go too cheap on a CPU, or it starts to affect?
I mean,
Bottlenecking,
dual core, do they even make less than that anymore? I don't think so. I have an old motherboard. I bought a used rig from a guy, and it has a dual core, and it runs just fine. I even mine on the
it
dual core.
probably doesn't do a whole lot.
Doesn't do
on the
anything, no.
CPU side, it probably doesn't do much.
So yeah, the CPU, just think of the CPU as the brain for the hub here, and it has to have one to function, but it doesn't need to be powerful. It just needs to allow the motherboard to see all of the components, basically. So there's another part you'll need, which is called RAM, and again, every computer needs RAM to function. This memory. So for Hive OS, I do know that all you need is 4 gigabytes of memory. I don't think you can buy 4 gig sticks anymore. I think 8 is pretty much all you'll find. But another thing where you don't want to just go out and buy a ton of RAM that's really expensive for no reason, because it's not going to do you any good. So once you have the motherboard, the CPU, the memory, and a power supply, you are also going to need a way to connect all of these graphics cards to the motherboard. Typically, a motherboard has 4 or 5 slots, and for a rig like this, you're almost there. That's fine. I like to build like 12 GPU rigs and like really big ones, and so one of the things that can limit you is, if you can see like the red cables here, how they're plugged into the motherboard. So they're each plugged into one slot.
What kind of ports are they plugged into?
Those are called PCIe slots.
Okay.
However, the beauty of it is that if you can kind of see here, I don't know if you all can see, but some ports are like really long and some ports are not. They're like really short. So the beauty of this adapter is that even if the lane is long, you can just plug in the short part of it into a long lane. And if it's a short lane, then it fits perfectly. So regardless of the size of the lane, with the adapter, you can still use it, which is really, really handy. So these are just called PCIe adapters. And so typically you buy a pack that comes with the component, which is a riser. The riser here is what you see that's on the bottom of the graphics cards that they're kind of sitting in. The graphics cards actually plug into the riser. The riser connects through USB to the adapter plugs into the motherboard. And so however many GPUs you have, you'll need an equal number of risers with USBs with the adapters. But like I said, the packs typically come with all of that. One thing to consider is the risers require power. So they're not going to be able to just plug into the graphics card and work. You're going to need to power them in some way. And there are multiple ways that you can power the risers. So I don't know if you can see again, it can be kind of tricky, but on the back of the riser cards, you'll see the red USB cable plugged in, which only transmits data essentially. And then you'll also see another little kind of connector that's powering the risers. And so what type of cards are these, Jonas?
Those are 478 gigabyte cards.
So these cards are plugged in to Molex adapters, which on a rig like this is fine because these are cards that don't draw a lot of power. However, you can get into some trouble on higher end graphics cards, like the 3090, for example. You do not want to use a Molex adapter on those risers because it can burn them up. But again, buying a pre-built rig from here, like they've been tested, you know it's going to be like hooked up already and ready to go, which is a benefit of buying a pre-built rig. So as you can see, all of these black sleeved cables here, these are all running to the power supply. And so certain power supplies are limited to how many sleeves of power connectors that they're going to have. So that's one thing to consider. You need to know how many cables you have to plug in these graphics cards. These graphics cards each only have one connection point. So you know each sleeve is going to connect to one, and that's all you need. Some cards have 2 connection points. Some cards have 3 connection points. So if you couple that, having 1 to 2 to 3 multiple connection points, but also needing to power the risers, as you can see, you end up with a pretty big bundle of cables pretty quickly. And so there are a number of different ways basically that you can hook these up.
Really quick, I think the image is done. You might want to get on the next step, and then we can talk about a couple of other topics.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jonas. All right, so now that you've downloaded your file, your operating system essentially, think of it as the install file for your operating system. If any of you have ever installed Windows on like a flash drive or something like that, or it used to come on a CD, this is essentially the same thing. You just have to kind of do it manually. So today we are just using a thumb drive or a flash drive. And do you know if Simple OS has like a minimum space requirement for a flash drive?
I don't.
Is
Do
it
they?
It's 8, but recommended
60?
16.
16. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so I would probably recommend you go for not just the regular 8, because with any type of operating system, operating systems have logs, right? If something goes wrong, it creates data that says what went wrong. And it also tracks various components and system resources and stuff like that. So if you just have the bare minimum of space, that can fill up and then the operating system will crash. So you want to give yourself a little headroom.
Actually, it says it right there behind you, 7+ gigabyte drive.
Okay. Oh, there we go. 7+ gigabyte drive. So, probably like, I would say, use a 14, 16. And then storage is really cheap these days. You can go out and buy, like, sometimes at Micro Center for $20, you can go get like 128 gigabyte solid state drive. That's like,
If you get on their mailing list, they give you a 256 gig every month.
oh, the flash.
No way. Really?
They
Oh,
do.
wow.
You just get on your mailing list, and you get a 256 gig flash drive for free every month.
Oh, wow.
I've gotten
You just got to go down there and get
I
it.
knew I came here for a reason.
But it's-
There you
Get on
go.
that.
Well, do you know if there's an upper cap? So I'm on A6. When you go to do a firmware flash, you want a smaller 8 or 16 gigabyte because if you do a 32 or 64, it may not take multiple flash.
That could very well be. I haven't heard of that on GPU mining operating systems before, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And that's actually, I didn't know that, so thank you for that. I'm pretty new to the ASIC mining community, but I am learning with that as well. I've really been enjoying it so far. So,
In general, these rigs here that are pre-made, they're spec'd out with all the extra specs for the wattage and the heat for the most part, right?
these have all been tested and like they're good to go. These all
Took them
have,
home, plug them in, and set your wallet, and you're good to go.
yeah. So you would have to set up the operating system, which is what I'm showing you how to do right now. And then you're right, connect your wallet, and then you're good to go. Give it power, give it internet. Typically, there is a way to see what's happening if you want to plug a monitor into these. You would have to. Well, there's a couple different ways you could do it, and so what I like to do is just run it right off the motherboard. If you really wanted to see what was going on under the hood, you can plug a monitor in here. You can plug in a keyboard and mouse if you need to. Typically, though, there's a way for you to interact with the operating system remotely through a laptop.
I was gonna say, you gotta be able to see it somewhere.
Yeah, so that's called running headless, no monitor, essentially. And, like some of these graphics cards don't even have like graphics ports on them.
For the mining edition.
Yeah, so like these, you wouldn't
Oh,
even be
really?
able to plug a monitor into the graphics card like you regularly would be. However, if the CPU has onboard graphics, then you can plug it into the motherboard and put a monitor on the side, because sometimes I do like to work that way. If your rig is not connecting to the internet or to the software, sometimes you can get into it and manually pull it up with the keyboard and mouse and troubleshoot that way. But typically at the end of the day, if you're having issues, first thing I would do is just reflash the operating system, just start over from scratch if it's not working correctly. That solves 99% of your problems. And also from there, like if you were overclocking, undervolting, and your system wasn't working right, 99% of the time you're not overclocking or undervolting right.
You have Belina on there, right?
So I'm looking for Belina. Here it is. So you will need this tool. It's called Belina Etcher. And it is literally just a tool that will take the file, you downloaded it, and put it onto your storage device. So when you pull up Belina Etcher, you'll click on the little icon here that says Flash from File, since we already downloaded the file. And we put it on our desktop. I'm guessing it's this guy. Yeah, image file. And then once you select the file, you go to click Open. Then you'll want to point it to the drive you'd like to flash. In this instance, we only have one drive plugged in, so it's the only one showing up. Once the check mark is blue, go ahead and select. Go ahead and click the flash button. And in a couple minutes, you will have the file flashed onto the drive and we'll be ready to go. Any questions while we're waiting on that to go?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how can you confirm, or, I mean, this was pre-built, so we feel pretty safe, but the power supply for the number of GPU cards, I know a guy that had a bunch sitting in the warehouse, he had like 9 power supplies, using 1 power supply for 3 cards each on a 27 card rig. Is that, how would you know what graphics card type you have and how much power it can support?
Sure. So the first thing I would do is, if you were buying a graphics card, you're going to want to look up its TDP, and that's called total draw of power. I believe TDP. Yeah, total draw power, I believe is what that stands for. So that is going to tell you how much wattage the card is going to push under load. Like if you were gaming, if you were mining, and so just a really quick way to do that is take that highest number, multiply that by the number of cards you have, assuming all of the cards are the same. If they're not, you're going to have to find each one individually and write it down. And then once you have that number, then you're going to determine, that's going to determine how big of a power supply you need. And when I say big, they're all technically the same size, but bigger ones push more wattage. So like they'll be like, you can start as low as like, I think like 500 watt power supply. Probably not what you want for mining. I only buy 1,000 watt or higher typically. This one's a 1,200 watt. And so, you know, for this rig, these cards can all be powered by a 1,200 watt power supply, no problem.
So 200 watts each is sufficient.
I don't know the TDP on these cards specifically. I'd have to look it up. But that information is really easily accessible on the manufacturer's website. There's also other tools. So I'll just pull it up for you all. This is a really, really useful website that I love. I use almost daily. It is called whattomine.com.
What's the typical overclock? Is it 20%? Would you add that on top of the power?
It's going to be different for every card. And so different operating systems, like the one I use, Hive OS, they give you like recommended settings that other people have tested. And it'll say like, this is the setting that 80 people are currently using with success. And then you click it and it'll literally just fill in everything for you. However, that's not always going to work for you. And so if you're not familiar with overclocking, I would recommend you probably just run the cards at stock settings to begin with. Get your rig stable. Once you know that it's mining without resetting or turning off, then you can start bumping up the memory clocks, lowering the power, the wattage. But right out of the gate, I probably would recommend you do that because if your rig is constantly crashing and rebooting, you're not making any. So it doesn't really matter how high you push those clocks, it's not stable. So this website, it might look a little confusing, but it shows you all of the different algorithms. Today we'll just focus on Ethereum. So that's going to be this one right here. And these are different graphics cards from different manufacturers. So we'll just pick one. Say you had a 6800, that is a card from AMD. If you click on it, it turns the color, and then you select how many you have. So we'll just do one for right now. So it's going to show you, if you're mining Ethereum, stock, this card is going to push 110 watts. It's going to earn 61 mega hash per second. If you don't know what hash is the amount of work that your card can do. The higher your hash rate, the more work, the more computations your card, the more work your card is doing. And so I think this is a really, really, really great tool. And you can look up Ergo's on here. Do you know what Ergo's algorithm is by chance?
Clock begins with a K. If you go down, it'll probably show. Go down.
Well, I know like Kapow is.
No,
that's Ravencoin. Yeah, I know that was Ravencoin. So
it's got it on.
Well, we'll just go ahead and we'll do Ethereum for the moment, and then once we calculate it, I bet it'll be on there. So say you had, say you had six 6800 graphics cards. That's going to pull about 660 watts, and so you would want to go out and buy a 700 watt power supply for that. You want to follow what's called the 80% rule. If you have 1,000 watt power supply, you only want to push 80% of that, 800 watts. And that goes for your breaker on your wall as well. If your breaker is 15 amps and rated for 1,800 watts, you only want to push 18% of that, or 80% of that. So once you kind of like fill this in, if you hit the calculate button, it's also going to show you profitability. So right now, it actually looks like Ethereum is not the most profitable coin after power. If you have these two graphics cards, it looks like this algorithm would be beating it out, revenue, profit. So the top number is going to be before power. The bottom number is going to be your profits after power. But it's also a way.
24 hours?
Yes, in a 24-hour period. Yep. So this is also a good way for you to see if you are mining the most profitable blockchain algorithm for your specific graphic card. If you kind of scroll down, you can see some you might recognize. Vero, Ravencoin, these are like nice hash. Ethereum Classic, Flux, Conflux. There we go. Ergo, Auto. Yeah, I don't know how you say that. So, like these are AMD cards. So Ergo might not be the best for an AMD card, but let's come in here and see, like, maybe we had some NVIDIA cards, like some 3080s. Maybe we had 73080s. You can see it's a little different. On this one, Conflux is way up closer to the top. We got Zero there, Ravencoin, Ethereum Classic. So this is a really, really great tool that I like to use. I use this almost every day.
Loren, that's 7. What was 7 right here?
These are the 3080s.
38, okay.
Original 3080s, full hash rate. I think you guys have some in here, actually.
Yep.
You did at one point.
We have the non-LHR ones.
Well, the LHR is no more. You guys heard, right? The 100% unlocks are out.
So the 7
100% unlocks.
cards, reps card?
7, yeah.
Yeah, 7 reps card numbers represent that.
Yeah, that would be what you would earn, $12 a day right now with 7 of those.
Today's prices, yeah.
Today's prices. And
So that 1678 will go into the power everything.
this is
I mean,
profit. Before power, it'd be $16
before power, that's it.
And like, this is pretty accurate. I mean, it changes every day, so tomorrow it could be completely different. It's based off of the price of the coin you're mining. It's also based off of like your power. So right here, it's calculating at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. You might have a little more than that. You might have a little less than that.
Question on that exchange rate column.
Yeah.
This thing, Binance, Engage, and Trade Ogre. Some of this is nice hash. So at first I was like, well, maybe that's firmware, but now maybe it's platforms because it says Binance.
Oh, the exchange.
The exchange rate. It's on that column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over, kind of in the middle. In blue.
Yeah.
Is that telling us like which platforms we have to trade that coin to get, or maybe it's a little off topic? Do we know what that column is?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I haven't delved into that.
I think it's where the quote is coming from.
Yeah, that's where the quote comes from.
But I was also just wondering if it was providing information on, like, let's say you thought that on that previous card that Equilibria XEQ or whatever was the most profitable, but maybe I don't trade on an exchange, or I'm not comfortable, or with going to that platform to mine that coin. So then that would help me decide, well, I'll just take a little less profit.
So you look it up on CoinMarketCap, and then on CoinMarketCap it has a tab.
I've got a CoinMarketCap right there next door.
It'll tell you market. It'll tell you all the exchanges that have that particular.
Oh, like
coin is
you're asking, like, if you want to know where you can cash that coin out?
Yeah, because that most profitable coin you saw, I wasn't familiar with it, so I was like, well,
I'm not
I don't
either.
want to mine it if I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
well, so let's do it. We'll go check it out. So we'll go back to the 6800s. Go ahead and calculate again. I have heard of Crypto Night GPU, but I had not heard of this specifically. So yeah, then what you would do is come over to CoinMarketCap and just do a search for it. What was that? XEQ. There it is. Yeah, and then if you scroll down on the bottom right, it's going to show you exchanges where you can cash that coin in at. So right now it's only showing 2 markets, Trade Ogre and Hotbit. Confidence level unknown, confidence level high. So it does show you volume though. So, with a coin like that, you might have some problems with liquidity. You might have some problems cashing that out. So just because there is a coin that pops up that's since more profitable, if it's on an exchange that's untrusted and you can't cash out, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, we had a guy come in here close when we first opened, and he was trying to get cash out from one of his airdrops that he was given. Apparently, he was given like 1 billion llama tokens or something ridiculous. You know, and it went from like lots and lots of zeros to close to a penny. So he had like $6 million worth of llama tokens, and there was just no way to get it out because there's no one providing liquidity for it. And then it was tied up through all these weird smart contracts and this yield farming stuff.
Huh.
It was crazy.
Oh, I've llama tokens. Yeah, that is.
It was something like that. I'm not sure if that's
I think I've heard
exactly
of
what
like
it was.
DeFi llama or something.
Yeah,
It sounds
something
like a
weird.
yield farming thing. Yeah. Sounds like yield farming. All right, just about got this.
We're validating.
Yep.
Excellent. So yeah, as you guys can see, really a lot of the time that it takes to get this set up is just kind of you waiting. It's really only a few clicks. You make an account, you download something, you put on a flash drive, you stick the flash drive in the machine, and then you plug the machine in.
So one reason actually I would recommend that you use solid state drives is this would already been done on a solid state drive. So if you are in a situation where you are updating your operating system a lot, maybe installing, reinstalling, doing a lot of experimentation, you're gonna save yourself a lot of time in the long run with a solid state drive. They're just much faster.
Also, say hello to New England Crypto.
What's up, New England Crypto?
They're watching on YouTube.
Awesome. Thanks for
So
checking us out.
Are the crypto-only cards any cheaper for the graphics cards?
So the latest crypto-only cards that came out from NVIDIA, I believe they were like called the CMP cards or something like that. Price per hash, honestly, they weren't, to me, that impressive.
Well, I just meant more of like, because you said there's no IOs on the back of those
Oh, on
cards.
these?
So is it any cheaper to get a 2060 that's got them and that doesn't?
As far as price comparison goes, again, you have to calculate what is the value of this card currently on the market, how much mega hash per second does it push, and then you just have to compare that to a 2060 or to
Sorry, so I'm missaying the question. So it's the same card, two 2060s. Those don't have IOs like a normal game graphics card have.
Oh, so these
Are those-
actually, they don't make these new anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would have to compare them to something else. But in their heyday of when they were being produced still, I would imagine that yes, they would be less expensive without the VGA component or the HDMI or whatever it would have been. I would assume so anyways.
Yeah, at least less metal in there if anything, there's nothing else.
So right now, I think that the closest comparison you'd be able to do would be like on something like that. Like NVIDIA makes, for instance, these cards called the A2000s that they don't have graphical interfaces. They're just meant to do computational work. Miners love them. They're actually really good, really efficient cards, but again, they're hard to find.
I don't know if you have any experience with immersion mining, but I know that with the ASICs, I use HiveOS also, and I get 20% overclock for the air cooling. But the people that are using immersion are doing 40% overclock.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Is that similar with the GPU? Can you overclock higher, or are you aware?
Immersion
I'm not
mineral
sure.
oil or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're on the dielectric curve, yeah.
I'm not sure about that because the ASIC boards are a little bit different in how they work because the limiting factor on you not being able to push your ASIC board to a certain speed is just heat. Whereas with these, I think it's a little more than that, but I wouldn't see why you wouldn't be able to boost them further with immersion. But I think you would run into other potential choke and limit points on the graphics card first, like power. I don't know. That's a really great question. I think the answer to that would just be experimenting with immersion to see. I would like to get into it. I just haven't found like a really good, cost-effective way to do it yet, other than just build it myself, which I haven't really had the time to get into. But I would like to eventually get my ASICs in immersion tanks. Yes, absolutely, 100%. Cool. So this one's good to go. We'll go ahead and pop it out.
see it, so it didn't
Yeah.
happen.
I use Macintosh mostly, so I'm like on this right now, kind of like fumbling around.
You're gonna have to update that card before you plug it in. You have to put his account,
Yeah,
his email account.
Oh, in the
There's a
config.
file. Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Config file.
So the next step here.
Yeah. So, do we have Ethernet here?
Over there.
Okay. Okay. You need this guy going in?
Yeah. Let's.
And also, you might need to log into your account.
Really?
Because we're gonna have to set up the config file, right?
Should be logged in right here.
It's logged in. Okay.
So we have already.
Yeah, I just again I've never used this one specifically, so I'm not really 100% sure what I'm looking at. Okay. Okay.
So let me go grab that Ethernet. Oh, here's this.
Are we just gonna plug it in over here, or are you gonna run it?
I was gonna toss that.
Okay.
Ethernet over.
Cool. Gotcha.
It should reach. If it doesn't, I'll grab it.
All right, you can do over here. Plug.
Probably easier just to set it up
On
right.
the floor too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, or that. Yeah, I'll just put it on the ground.
Hello.
Oh my God.
It's Jones.
Good thing you
Indiana
weren't
Jones over
sitting
here.
there. Good thing you moved.
Does that reach?
Yes.
Fantastic.
This looks like my basement.
Yeah.
All right. So this is an example of what we would call headless mode or no monitor. You don't have any type of monitor or keyboard plugged into the rig. All you have is the flash drive or the hard drive that you put the operating system on. So once you boot the rig up, since this is a fresh install, it might take a little while for the operating system to unpack itself. It's going to be doing some things behind the scenes, kind of getting itself set up. So you're going to need to connect the rig. Now that it has an operating system, you're going to need to connect it to your account, basically. So you'll have to make an account with Simple Mining. And within that account, you'll have to do some configuration. You'll have to enter in your wallet address. Without your wallet address, the rigs don't know where to, you don't know where your money or the coins you're earning don't know where to go. So typically how it works is you'll also need a mining pool, because unless you're solo mining, but typically these days you use mining pools, because typically it takes a lot more, significantly more hash power than what you would have in one of these rigs to solve a block than to get a payout. And so rather than play the lottery and just hope you get lucky and hit a payout one day, you join a mining pool and everyone pulls their hash rate or their earning power together, and you get consistent small payouts. And so typically a mining pool will have what's called a threshold that says, all right, once you reach one of these coins, we'll pay you out. Or once you reach a 10th of a coin, we'll pay you out. And so you have to have a mining pool, you'll have to have a wallet, and you need to make sure that your wallet is associated with the blockchain that you're mining on. For instance, if it's Ethereum, you'll need an Ethereum wallet, ETC and the ETC, so on and so forth. And so you might be able to actually help me out with this too, since he's over there. Basically, you will have to connect these two devices, your account to the rig, to allow it to configure itself with your information in your wallet. So if you have some pointers over here.
Did you, on the flash drive, is the flash drive plugged in there?
It is.
Okay, but before you plugged it in, did you put his email address in the config file on the,
I did not.
okay, so it's not gonna work
Okay.
until you do that.
Okay.
So
So
is the count what?
where do I download the configuration?
No, you don't have, so pull that out, the thing.
Jonah said he was logged in, doesn't matter.
No, you can turn off the rig because it's not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Go off the flash drive, go into File Explorer.
Well, where is the configuration file?
It's on the
It's on the drive.
it's on the USB drive.
Oh, see, HiveOS is backwards. On HiveOS, the configuration file comes from.
Yeah,
the
okay.
account?
See, so there you see config.
Yes.
You right click on that. Down at the bottom,
Mhm.
where you see username.
User email.
Yeah,
I have
user
to put-
email.
I have to
So
put your email in?
you have to put his email in.
The one that, so this is for my account here. So yeah, the email would be jonas@firstcryptoworld.com. Line like 6.
See where it says admin at Simple Mining?
Yes.
Erase that to
Gotcha.
where it's the equal sign and then put his email in, and that'll work.
Jonas at firstcryptoworld.com.
Yep, 1ST, cryptoworld.com. Now, I don't think it's case sensitive, but you might want to lowercase that J.
Oh.
That's what I did on the other one at least.
The Wi-Fi information in here now?
No, you can just.
Yeah, you can ignore everything else in there since we've got it hardwired in.
Okay.
You did file save.
In this case, all you need is the.
You did save, so file save.
So yeah, in this case, all you need is the email address to link the hard drive to the account.
And is it that account that allows you to kind of see what's going on?
Right.
Yep.
So what he's got up
becomes your
here,
interface?
right here, that's the account that you would set up on simplemining.net.
That is pretty simple, yeah.
It's about as simple as I've seen it.
I'm impressed. With HiveOS, you have a rig ID and password that you use.
So what would be the instances where you would use Simple Mining versus going with Hive?
It's almost like shopping at Walmart or Target.
I would say preference. They all do the same thing. Just which one do you like better? Which one makes more sense to you?
I will say I've been using both Hive and Simple Mining for quite some time now. Knock on wood, I've never had Simple Mining, my rig just go offline randomly. Hive, it has happened many times where I'll walk in one day and it's like, oh, it's just off for no particular reason.
The difference is Hive lets you have 3 rigs free from the state.
Yeah, up
Simple
to
Mining
3.
has a flat fee,
Yeah.
$2 per rig.
Oh wow. Oh okay.
So.
I have like 7 Hive accounts. Yeah, and I just because I have so many rigs, I don't pay. I'm just like I'm free.
But I've used Simple Mining for almost 4 years.
Awesome.
I like Simple Mining.
Cool. Very cool.
So you should be able to
You
go
know,
to
it's
rig
like
list.
Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Does Simple Mining also have those
And then
community profiles?
Second
cards?
tab.
Okay, yes.
It's better. It's that's something that's better on Hive, but they have a Discord.
Allow adding
You
rigs.
can go on Discord and see what they say.
Joe, in that situation when yours goes down, is there any kind of watchdog or anything that tells you a notification or something that you're down?
Yeah, so
Okay, so-
there's you can get the phone app to give you notifications, or you can sign up for email notifications. I almost inevitably miss it every time.
Okay,
Or I
I
just
just
wanna
want to
say
make
it.
sure, or understand if there's a mechanism to, you think nowadays it's pretty just
There is.
set it and forget it kind of.
There's a watchdog script too that will auto reboot the miner, and like if it'll say like, all right, it's not mining, reboot the software. If the software reboot doesn't work, in 10 minutes it'll reboot the whole rig, power it off and then back on. Yeah, I mean, so like with HiveOS, my rigs typically run like 30 to 40 days before a reset happens. Typically when a reset happens, that's because the internet went out, or like there was like sometimes they just reboot. But I also like push my overclocks really high and I undervolt as much as I can. So typically if you're having an issue with that, 99% of the time it's like the clocks aren't correct, I would say. At least from my experience with HiveOS.
Maybe hit that. Oh, it says 2 rigs. Go back to rig list really quick.
Okay.
Huh?
2 online, 2 seconds online. Is this the rig?
No. Okay, so go back to
You have to add, right?
and add rig again.
Add rig.
Yeah, he's already allowed broadcasting, so we should just be waiting. But up there on the very top, it says rigs is 2. Up a little more to the left. Yeah, there's a little 2 up a little more left.
Yeah.
There you go.
Click on that.
Says there's 2. I don't think you can click on that.
Okay. Yeah, again, I've never done this before, so
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know if you want to take over to show them this part.
Yeah, mine.
Cool. Appreciate it. It's should be fairly simple. It's just whether than you guys watch me blumber over where specific tabs are at.
Yeah, my very first time setting this up, I was also.
There's definitely a learning curve with any software or website. You just gotta learn where the buttons are at.
So you can see up here this red line. They're saying, I'm less than 24 hours away from my credits running out. So you deposit, like what Dave was saying, Dan was saying, flat $2 per rig per month, right?
Well, that's not too bad.
No, it's really not. But they wanted in Litecoin. They've got a few other options. So I needed to deposit some more in there. Shouldn't prevent me from getting another rig online, but
Can you convert what you mine within simple mining to add to Litecoin? Like, can you convert to Litecoin?
not that I know of.
Okay.
It pays out to my MetaMask wallet.
Oh,
I've actually got it set to pay out in wrapped Ethereum. So I get daily payouts. Simple mining right now, the basic way it's set up, there's a threshold where they'll actually just hold what you've mined for you until you reach a certain point, and then they pay you out. Standard right now is 1 Ethereum.
Oh,
Yeah, which was pretty shocking to me. And so I, of course, wanted to switch over to, so I've got 6 cards, 6 GPUs, 2 rigs. So why don't you show them to me? There we go. Okay, it was there.
It'll just take a while to kind of boot up or whatever.
Yeah. So I put my email address in a flash drive in the config file, put it in, turn it on, just keep hitting refresh until it shows up. So you guys can see now I've got my two rigs. This is the one that I've had for longer. It's overclocked, which is why it's getting a little under 30 mega hash. This one is running raw, so it's about 27 mega hash per card. So I could actually click over here, I think, and I can see. I'll show you guys how to overclock it really quick. So 1100, 2050, 850. These are your stats for overclocking. OC, that's what that is. These numbers were given to me straight from Michael Carter. So this is what he recommended, and it's worked out pretty well so far.
let's say they're good.
So 1100, 2050, 850.
So one thing to note there, those numbers, if you were mining on Windows, you cut all those numbers in half. For whatever reason, on the dedicated mining softwares, it doubles. So like a typical memory overclock on a NVIDIA card on Windows operating system is 1,000. On HiveOS or Simple Mining, it would be around 2,000. It gives us out 2,200 or so. Yeah, HiveOS is Linux-based.
Pure
Yeah.
open source.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, the numbers are doubled. I don't know why it does that, but
So I just put in the overclock settings, and we're waiting for the rig to reboot itself. And you guys should see the hash rates here change. It was, what was it, 27?
Yeah.
Just before this?
Around 30.
those cards can push 30. Yeah, from what I've heard. Again, though, it's every card is different. They call it the Silicon Lottery.
You got the good memory or the bad memory. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was nice when I switched to Hive, though. You would actually tell you what the memory was. So
Yeah.
it helped with overclocking, so you weren't just totally shooting in the dark. You knew, okay, this is the same site memory. I can push a little more on this
Yep.
than I can on the other one. But
Yeah, it'll tell you if it's Micron or if it's
and did
Samsung.
I don't pay enough attention because I got it set up that I just set it and forget it in the closet. But High Bus just changed to 0.2 payout now instead of 0.1 Ethereum.
I believe
Anyone
that's true.
Yeah.
Is that on the high
their
pool?
dedicated pool, high bond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think they did change. I think I did hear they changed something. I use Ethermine when I use. I think they were 0.1, but I also use like they integrated Polygon, so I can get Polygon payouts daily for free.
Yeah, so that's the train of thought that I didn't get to finish. When I changed to wrap Ethereum, now we can pay off some wrapped ETH.
Is that Polygon?
Yes,
Okay.
Polygon.
Oh yeah, so technically it's wrapped Ethereum.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
So does your account tell you
every
every
2
trade
days.
you choose which? How does your box know what it's what it's
It's nice.
like
You point it to the algorithm you want it to
in
run.
your
In your settings,
Okay.
yeah. Like within HiveOS, you could say, like I could switch to Ethereum Classic if I wanted to. Yeah, you can change the algorithm that you want to mine on. And when I say-
can you do it one coin 1 week or month
Yeah.
or
Totally,
can you?
totally. You can even set it up to where one card is mining one and one card is mining a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah, however you want to configure it, you can.
A little bit more configuration up front, but yeah.
It takes a little, yeah, it's definitely more involved.
But it's kind of a one-time thing, and then you can switch it, button click. In Hive, they're called
Yeah.
flight sheets.
Yeah.
And as
You
far
just
as
save
like
the
so you
configuration.
got your investment, it pays $10 or $12 or $4 or whatever per card per month, and you got what probably 2-year ROI, or I mean, it's not like a very
Depends on pricing.
Yeah.
Right now, it'll be a lot longer, but I mean, I had all my stuff paid off in 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, the high-end cards right now, the last time I checked, like you could, the good deals were like 8 months to 12 months on Ethereum, but like the merge is happening supposedly. So Ethereum mining is going away, and then you have to switch to a coin with a little less profitable. So.
Now, as this mining increases popularity and more people, how does that affect
The more
the
people
returns?
the more people that do it, the less the harder it is for you to earn, essentially.
Yeah.
But what's going to keep people from just jumping?
Well,
on
it's
it?
supply and demand. So if
Yeah.
it gets too expensive, then it's no longer profitable, and some people shut off their rigs, and then the people that remain become profitable again.
Yep.
Or I mean, it also depends on the market too, as far as ROI and profitability. Like at 50,000 plus Bitcoin, just about everything's profitable. But at 30,000, depends on your rig and your power costs and all that. But
Yep.
Also on payouts for if you bought a $10,000 rig. Well, Bitcoin falling as much as it has is not going to do well with that. But if you're mining and it's rising, then your 12-month worst case that Loren just mentioned turns into 8, 7, whatever. So
Oh, yeah, and then what I did is mostly forward, so I mined Ethereum. When I first started mining in 2018, Ethereum, I was making $20 a day. And
On one card,
on one rig.
on one rig, nice.
On one rig,
Nice.
but it was like, that's when it was trading at about $200 a coin, so
Yeah.
it was 0.1 Ethereum.
Yeah.
You were
Same rig,
yielding
same-
more Ethereum, right?
Oh, I was making more Ethereum, but it was worth so much less.
Yeah.
Same card, or same setup, I'm still mining Ethereum. Instead of making 0.1 Ethereum a day, so an Ethereum every 10 days is what you're looking at. I'm making approximately 0.3 Ethereum a month. So, it takes me
10 days.
almost 10 days to get 0.1 Ethereum, where 4 years ago I was mining it, but I'm still kind of making almost the same amount of money
Because of the price.
because the price now is over $2,000 versus 200
Yeah.
back then.
So here's something I'd point out. This graph here kind of shows your rig's activity over time. And you can see we turned it on. It was at about 810 watts, 163 mega hash. I overclocked it, so it rebooted. And now it's about 660 watts and a little over 176 mega hash. So you can see that yellow line there was my power consumption, and the blue is the hash rate. So by changing some overclock settings, you're getting more hash, and you're doing it more efficiently. So, yeah, this is really, really great. I love these rigs a lot. They were built by Michael Carter, Bitsby Trippin, like I said, the YouTuber we've partnered with. It really doesn't get any simpler than this. I mean, even for you, Loren, coming up here, and you haven't used Simple OS before, but you just did it. And like,
Yeah.
what was that? Besides all the time it took for the image to burn and the OS to download them, and that was no time at all. So now we're mining. So any other questions about GPU rigs? I mean, half of you guys are experts already.
So these are pre-built rigs. How do you guys decide, like, what target do you pre-build them for? Just you have 6 of the graphics card and you put it together, or do you shoot for a hash rate, or do you shoot for
That's a good question.
ROI? Or
These were built because Michael Carter, the YouTuber, he's renovating his farm, and he's switching over to the latest cards with the new form factor. So he had the most of these. This was kind of just what he was able to build rigs out of. He's got tons and tons and tons of cards, but these are the best pre-built rigs he could put together that would also be affordable for someone new wanting to get into it. We've priced these out, and believe it or not, unless you already have the components, you can't build one of these for as cheap as we're selling them. We were selling all these components before he delivered the pre-built ones. And even buying them from us, if you were to buy parts and put them together, it's still going to be more expensive than what we have these for.
Yeah, it'd be about $500 just to get the frame, the motherboard, the processor, PSU,
Yeah.
and all that, and then think at least $350 a car.
We've got $350 a card is what we were selling for. I think we actually bumped it down to $325.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
those cards are just as efficient as the new AMD cards
right.
are, the similar ones, brand new, on Ethereum.
And that was another big factor of why he decided to use these particular cards for all these rigs.
Didn't he like hedge into ASICs heavily too?
Yes.
Like I know he kept a lot of his GPUs, but I think he like
Oh, he's getting some containers.
migrating into ASICs.
He's getting some big containers.
It's like, you know, like
Metal box.
with the Ethereum merge coming, like no one really knows how profitable GPU mining is going to be after that. And so kind of like, if you know you're going to be mining long term for like 10 years, then it doesn't hurt to maybe have a hedge, like you have a Bitcoin miner. That way you're still able to mine, even if like for a while GPU mining isn't profitable.
what is with this merge? Is it all of Ethereum's blockchain coins are also may not be mineable?
You
So
can still mine ETC. So like Ethereum Classic is its own chain. You just won't be able to mine Ethereum. Like on these cards, they're mining ETC already. So like it doesn't matter. But kind of like what he was saying is like if you are like,
Well, so these are actually straight up Ethereum.
oh, those are on
Yeah,
Ethereum.
yeah.
Oh, I thought
These
those were
are-
on ETC.
No, these are 8 gigabyte.
and there's
Oh,
always
those are I
always
thought those were 4 gigs. My bad.
there's always something you can mine with the GPU rig. That's kind of the joy of the flexibility.
You can switch
just
them,
can't
yes.
do.
You can switch, yeah. And like a lot of people have already switched off of Ethereum. You know, like spec mining other coins right now.
Ravencoin.
Jonas, can you show us the what to mine and show us how profitable it would be? Like, let's say this merge happens with Ethereum, we had to mine Ethereum Classic, kind of get a feel for what the profitability could look like going forward.
Sure. You want to know Ethereum Classic?
So
Well,
if you scroll up, do you want me to take over?
Yeah.
These are the 480s or 580s?
480,
8
8 gigabytes.
Are those flash to 8 gigs? Or BIOS modded, do you know?
No.
Oh, okay, they come stock with 4.
Yeah.
480.
Up a little bit.
Do you see it?
Yep, it's in the middle. Yeah, that one. Yep, there you go.
So we've got 6 of these. Does that seem right? 180 mega hash?
Yep, that's ballpark. We were hitting 177 or 176 a second ago.
Is that with the overclock? Or?
Correct.
And then our costs, yeah, I don't know, this is not just for people in Missouri, but it's 8 cents per kilowatt hour if they're mining in their basement, and it's 11 cents in the summer. So it's about to be 11 cents, but it's
This is 10. Well, yeah, we'll just say 10. I think that's average.
yeah, just for the viewers that they know and they can change.
Oh,
it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can change it. Yep. So, on this one right now, you can see it's about a 50% reduction versus the next most profitable coin.
When do we expect that Ethereum's not going to be mineable anymore?
That's it.
That's the question.
They've been saying they're going to do the merge for many years, but
Yeah, I think it's 2019 when it's going to
they,
That's what I've been hearing.
they,
Same year the Mayan calendar when the
they are
world ends.
they are launching test nets right now, and they also like what's called the difficulty bomb. They did not diffuse the latest difficulty bomb, and so what you're going to see within the next coming weeks to months is profitability is going to keep going down.
Did you see the Michael Carter video? He said in the video that it's probably not going to be until the beginning of January.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what that's his opinion.
I've heard a lot of August, September. No one knows. The answer to that is no one knows what's going to happen.
Can you briefly, in a nutshell, what is this merging? Because my rudimentary understanding is that without miners, the blockchain cannot continue its efficiency,
Sure.
and you're about to kick them in the knees. So
They're moving to what's called proof of stake. So essentially, all you'll have at that point is node operators. There'll just be people with laptops running nodes, and
similar like a Helium network or something, where it's all node based instead.
not quite.
Okay.
So proof of stake is they're able to verify transactions on the blockchains through the nodes, and they basically use the Ethereum that is staked and locked up to be like the supporting factor to hold up the network, essentially. So I'm not an expert on proof of stake, so I
Proof
won't.
of stake is a lot
It's a
harder
consent-
than conception.
They're changing the,
consensus.
they're changing the consensus mechanism.
And
essentially.
to run a node, you're going to need 32 Ethereum.
Yeah. So
Okay,
to run a
so
node, you have to
32,
stake
and then you're going
a
to
certain
get
amount of Ethereum. Yes.
rewarded. Typically, your people are going on to the Amazon Web Services and getting like a virtual private server
Your work is
and
your
executing
investment,
executing a Linux program that's communicating with all of the other people. And if you have to get private keys and enter all your stuff on this to operate a node, and then you get a return based upon how many people are running nodes, and it's significantly less than what they're paying out in mining. But
And then you get, in proof of work, you get compensated based on demonstrating that you did the work.
Yes.
Where in proof of stake, you get compensated by having skin in the game and doing
Exactly.
the work with the skin in the game. With the skin being you actually own, you're
The
putting up
Ethereum,
the
but
coin.
I got
Your
you.
proof of participation is your locked investment. Your locked there. essentially.
Interesting.
Is ETH and ETH 4G two different chains?
Couple 1060 rigs, and I don't really give a shit if they
Like those are all supposed to be different chains, right? Are all the blue titles, octopus?
So those are
Wow.
okay. So those are different algorithms. So I didn't really explain that super well. The algorithm is like the code, essentially, like the language that a certain blockchain uses. Like Bitcoin is SHA-256, Ethereum is ETH. However, you can have two different blockchains that use the same algorithm. I know that sounds like really confusing, but So-
They tend to run on script.
yeah, exactly. And so a chain can change its algorithm if they so wish.
But I was just wondering if ETH and ETH 4G are different since they got two.
I would assume. I've never heard of it as a 4G, but I think what that is it's like a fork of ET hash that allows you to use 4 GB cards. I don't know what that is. It's like they because they changed the DAG size, but then there was a fourth that still allows you to use the DAG or something like that.
I think that's what-
Don't quote me on that, but that would be my best guess. On that one, yeah.
And then, I don't know more about the proof of stake, maybe it's too off topic maybe or whatever, but I was under the understanding that proof of work, okay, everybody can do their own mining in their basement or whatever. It's more of a community-based, who found the next blockchain, which provides security to me versus a new coin gets started, it's on proof of stake, right? But we were just discussing proof of work, it's on proof of stake. They withhold a certain number of those coins or that crypto, and then they release it. But now they're in control of kind of the security by being the holder of all of that currency.
I mean, that doesn't argue against proof of stake.
Is that a real concern or not a concern?
Is that a valid concern? I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying proof of stake is bad. However, me personally, I don't plan on staking into my Ethereum. Not financial advice. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes. I mean, it could very well. One, I don't have that much Ethereum, but also like there are still a lot of unanswered questions about the merge, and like originally they were calling it Ethereum 2.0, but now they've rebranded that. They're not calling it 2.0 anymore because they weren't able to work in all the features that they said that they were going to.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So right now there still is no way. They haven't finished the code that allows you to unstake your Ethereum.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I have 32 Ethereum sitting out in Neverland.
No.
So I mean,
I paid
so
one
right
and a half
now,
Ethereum
and
over
people
here, which is like not bad.
people
One and a
already
half
have their Ethereum
doing
locked
nothing.
up. So yeah, it's like if you had
Just can't
32
get
ETH
it.
locked up right now, how would you feel about knowing that currently there's no way for you to unlock your Ethereum yet? That would make me pretty nervous personally. But I mean, I am rooting for Ethereum. I want to see it succeed. Obviously, I plan on holding Ethereum long term. If proof of stake takes off and it does well, I might reconsider. But that's just my opinion on it right now.
We need Ethereum to make Polygon establishable because it's a second chain off of Ethereum.
Polygon is layer 2, and I'm a huge fan of Polygon. I really am a huge fan of Ethereum network. There's a lot of utility. I mean,
We'll see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If Ethereum fails, Polygon fails.
Make sure you guys get a couple of those rigs on your way out. They're 10% off tonight.
Nice.
How much are those rigs?
So right now we've got them for 2,300, but 10% off today, bring it down to 2,170. I believe.
It's not a bad deal.
Yeah. Definitely not. I mean, the 2,300 was already really cheap. So the 2,170 now, that's like, holy crap. All right, cool. I think we're good.
Thank you guys.